In a galaxy filled with advanced civilizations and strange worlds, the Stellar Combat Academy stood out as a beacon of learning. Floating gracefully above the vibrant planet of Zixar, this academy was renowned for its lush landscapes and diverse alien species. Here, the brightest minds trained to become elite warriors, gathering from various planets, eager to learn and prove themselves. Today was special. It marked the beginning of a new semester, and anticipation buzzed in the air. Students of all shapes and sizes filled the large hallways, their voices mixing in a symphony of excitement. Some had shimmering scales, while others had skin that changed color with their emotions. Among them were the elite, who believed they were superior due to their advanced technology and rigorous training. As the students chatted, a buzz of speculation spread through the crowd. They were about to receive a new instructor, a human from a planet known as Earth. Rumors swirled that humans were inferior, lacking advanced technology or enhancements. Most aliens viewed humanity as weak and primitive, but whispers suggested that this human was different. He was a Deathworlder, a title given to those who survived on planets known for their extreme dangers. The students couldn't imagine what that meant, but it piqued their curiosity. Can you believe it? A tall, blue-skinned student named Rax said, shaking his head. A human teaching us? What can he possibly know about combat? Probably nothing, replied Zil, a green, four-armed student. They can't even use the right equipment. How can he teach us? As they continued to chat, the grand entrance doors swung open, revealing a figure standing in the bright light. The students fell silent, staring in disbelief. The human was tall and muscular, with short, messy hair and a serious expression. He wore simple clothing that seemed worn but sturdy. This was Bonner, the new instructor. Bonner stepped into the hall, taking a moment to observe the diverse group of students. He felt their eyes on him, judging him without knowing his story. He took a deep breath and smiled. Hello, everyone. I'm Bonner, your combat instructor for this semester. I look forward to training with all of you. A murmur rippled through the crowd. The students exchanged glances, unsure of what to make of him. Bonner noticed their skepticism but chose to ignore it for now. He was here to teach, and he planned to show them what humanity was truly capable of. Today we'll begin with a combat drill, Bonner announced, his voice steady and clear. I know you have many questions, but I ask for your trust. Let's see what we can achieve together. The students shifted uneasily, still doubtful. They whispered among themselves, wondering how this unarmored human would lead them in combat. The academy had never seen a human instructor, and many were eager to see him fail. As they walked to the training arena, the sun shone brightly, casting a warm glow on the academy grounds. The arena was vast, with various obstacles and training dummies scattered about. High-tech devices floated around, ready to record their every move. The students prepared themselves, still whispering doubts. Bonner stood in the center of the arena, taking in the impressive setup. This is where we'll train. Today, I want you to demonstrate your skills. Show me what you can do. One by one, the students began their drills. They leaped, rolled, and unleashed powerful attacks using their advanced weapons. The arena buzzed with energy as they showcased their techniques. Bonner observed carefully, noting their strengths and weaknesses. Suddenly, one of the students, a small, agile creature with wings named Fina, soared into the air. She executed impressive flips and strikes, wowing the crowd. The other students cheered her on, their confidence growing as they watched her performance. Fina landed gracefully, her wings folding neatly behind her. See, Zil said, his voice full of pride. This is what a true warrior looks like. But Bonner remained calm, his eyes focused on the training. He waited for the right moment to step in. And soon enough, it arrived. Now it's my turn, Bonner said, stepping forward. The crowd fell silent, curiosity piqued. They watched as Bonner took his place in the arena, unarmed and seemingly unprepared. Some laughed, thinking it foolish of him to compete without armor. As he began, Bonner moved with grace and precision. He dodged attacks and countered with swift, fluid motions that caught the students off guard. It was unlike anything they had seen before. Bonner's movements were a dance of agility and skill, showcasing his adaptability. He relied on instinct and reflexes rather than weapons and technology. With each move, he proved that strength came in many forms. The students gasped, their skepticism slowly turning to awe. This human was not what they expected. With every dodge and strike, Bonner shattered their preconceived notions about humanity. As the drill continued, the atmosphere shifted. The students began to realize that there was more to combat than just technology and armor. They were beginning to understand that Bonner had something unique to offer. Bonner smiled at their growing interest. He knew this was just the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead, and he was ready to guide them through it. Little did they know, their journey would change everything they thought they knew about strength, resilience, and what it meant to be a warrior. The training session ended with cheers from the students. They surrounded Bonner, eager to ask questions, their doubts fading away. The first steps of their journey together had begun, and the academy would never be the same again. As the first week at the Stellar Combat Academy unfolded, excitement filled the air. Students buzzed with anticipation about their upcoming training exercises, eager to prove their skills and learn from Bonner, the human instructor. Some were still skeptical about his abilities, but curiosity outweighed doubt. Today, Bonner would introduce them to their first real challenge. In the spacious training arena, sunlight streamed through the glass ceiling, illuminating the advanced technology scattered across the ground. The arena was filled with obstacles, dummies, and holographic targets that flickered into existence at the touch of a button. Bonner stood at the center, arms crossed, his expression serious yet inviting. He could sense the mixture of excitement and nervousness among the students. "Today, we will face our first challenge," Bonner announced, his voice booming through the arena. "You will work in pairs to complete a series of combat drills. These drills will test your skills, teamwork, and adaptability. Remember, we're not just learning techniques, we're learning how to think on our feet." The students nodded, their competitive spirits igniting. As they formed pairs, Bonner observed closely, noting the dynamics between the students. The alien species represented were diverse, each with their unique strengths and weaknesses. Rax paired with Zill, while Finna teamed up with another agile student named Kale. "Let's get started." Bonner clapped his hands, signaling the beginning of the drills. He activated the first exercise, an obstacle course filled with challenges, both physical and mental. The students needed to navigate through laser grids, avoid swinging pendulums, and dismantle a series of holographic opponents that appeared at random. Rax and Zill took off first, moving quickly through the course. Rax's height allowed him to leap over the obstacles, while Zill used his extra arms to maneuver swiftly, dodging lasers. They communicated well, strategizing on the fly. "Go left," Zill shouted, pointing toward a gap in the lasers. Rax nodded and jumped, narrowly avoiding a beam that buzzed to life just as he passed. They reached the end of the course, breathing heavily, but exhilarated by their success. Meanwhile, Finna and Kale faced their own set of challenges. Finna's small size gave her an advantage in speed, allowing her to dart through the lasers with ease. Kale, with his powerful build, took down the holographic opponents with strong strikes. Their teamwork was seamless, with Finna providing quick distractions while Kale dealt with the attackers. Bonner observed each pair, taking mental notes. He noticed how quickly the students adapted to the obstacles and each other. But he also saw moments of hesitation and confusion, especially among those who had never faced such dynamic challenges. "Don't forget to think creatively," Bonner called out, urging them on. "Combat isn't just about brute force, it's about strategy." As the drills continued, students struggled and succeeded, their skills improving with each attempt. Bonner cheered them on, offering guidance and encouragement. The students began to realize that Bonner was not just an instructor. He was a mentor who believed in their potential. After the first round of drills, Bonner gathered the students together. "Well done, everyone. You showed great spirit today, but we're just getting started. Tomorrow, we'll up the difficulty." The students looked at one another, a mix of excitement and trepidation filling the air. Some whispered their concerns, while others boasted about their achievements. But all shared a common understanding. They were beginning to see Bonner in a new light. As the sun set on the academy, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, Bonner sat alone for a moment, reflecting on the day. He remembered his own training days, how he had to earn the respect of others. He felt a bond forming with these students, a connection that transcended their differences. The next day promised even greater challenges, and Bonner was determined to help his students rise to meet them. They were warriors in training, and it was his mission to teach them the true meaning of strength, both in combat and in character. The following morning, Bonner gathered the students for another round of drills. This time, he introduced new technology, cloaking devices. "Today you will learn to utilize technology to your advantage," he explained. "But remember, the real strength comes from within. Don't rely solely on gadgets." The students listened intently, eager to absorb every word. They practiced using the cloaking devices, learning how to blend into their surroundings. But Bonner challenged them further. "Now, I want you to navigate the course without using your cloaks. Show me how you can adapt." The arena buzzed with energy as the students took on this new challenge. As they competed, Bonner smiled, knowing they were beginning to understand what it meant to be a true warrior. They were not just learning combat. They were learning to think, adapt, and grow. As the day progressed, Bonner felt a surge of hope. Perhaps these students would help reshape the perception of humanity in the galaxy. And perhaps, just perhaps, they would learn that mercy and understanding could be the most powerful weapons of all. As the days turned into weeks at the Stellar Combat Academy, the atmosphere grew more electric with every passing moment. Bonner's students were eager to prove themselves, and he had pushed them to their limits, preparing them for an unexpected challenge that would change everything. They were learning quickly, but nothing could prepare them for what lay ahead. One sunny afternoon, Bonner gathered the students in the central training area, a vast expanse of polished metal and holographic technology. Today was unlike any other. It wasn't just about drills or exercises. It was about a lesson that would test their courage and resolve. "Today," Bonner announced, his voice steady and clear, "we will have a visitor, a Deathworlder." The word sent a ripple of excitement and apprehension through the group. Deathworlders were beings from planets so harsh and dangerous that they were often seen as legends, feared for their survival skills and ferocity. "Most of you have heard stories about Deathworlders," Bonner continued, "but today you will meet one in person. I want you to keep an open mind. They may seem intimidating, but they also have much to teach us." Just then, the doors to the training area swung open, and in strode a tall figure, his presence commanding and powerful. His skin was rugged and weathered, marked by battles and survival on a planet where few could thrive. He wore no armor, and his intense gaze swept over the students, evaluating them as they watched in awe. The students whispered among themselves, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and admiration. Who was this warrior? What skills would he show them? Would he demonstrate the terrifying prowess they had only heard about in tales? "Meet Kale," Bonner introduced, gesturing to the imposing figure. "He is a Deathworlder from the planet Korvax, and he will lead today's challenge." Kale stepped forward, his voice deep and resonant. "I will not coddle you. You are here to learn how to survive and fight. I will show you what it means to be a true warrior." His words ignited a fire within the students. They were eager to impress this legendary figure, but they also felt the weight of his expectations. Bonner could see the determination in their eyes and knew they would rise to the occasion. The challenge was simple yet daunting. A series of combat scenarios where the students would face off against Kel, who would use his skills and experience to push them beyond their limits. The students were split into teams, and each group would take turns sparring with Kale. As the first team stepped forward, Bonner watched closely, his heart racing with pride and anticipation. The students were nervous but ready. They had trained hard, and this was their moment to show what they could do. The first pair approached Cale, who stood relaxed but focused. The students exchanged glances, silently preparing their strategy. They charged at him, determined to land the first blow. But Cale moved like lightning, dodging their attacks with ease. His movements were fluid, almost dance-like, as he countered their strikes and skillfully disarmed them one by one. Gasps filled the arena as Cale took down both students with surprising speed. He was strong and agile, his every move calculated. The spectators could see why Deathworlders were so feared. Again, Cale barked, his voice commanding, "Learn from your mistakes." The next group approached, filled with determination. They planned their strategy carefully, trying to anticipate Cale's movements. This time, they worked as a cohesive unit, trying to outsmart the Deathworlder. But Cale was one step ahead. He feigned a stumble, drawing them in, only to spring back to life, turning their coordinated attack against them. Within seconds, he had outmaneuvered them again, leaving them breathless and defeated on the ground. The students were starting to realize the gap between their training and Cale's raw ability. They had never faced an opponent like him before. With each round, they learned, adapting their techniques and working together. They had to rely on each other, using their strengths to compensate for their weaknesses. After several rounds, Bonner called a break. He noticed the students were exhausted, but their spirits were high. They had witnessed Cale's power and skill, but they had also felt the fire of determination burning within them. Cale stepped forward once more, his expression serious yet encouraging. "You have potential," he said, looking at each student. "But potential means nothing without practice and will. You must train harder and learn to trust each other. In battle, you cannot fight alone. You need to be a team." As Cale spoke, Bonner could see the change in the students. They had gone from being intimidated to inspired. The challenge had awakened something inside them, a desire to grow stronger and prove themselves. In the days that followed, the students trained with renewed vigor. They practiced their techniques, learned to trust each other, and honed their skills. They began to understand that being a warrior was not just about brute strength. It was about strategy, teamwork, and resilience. One evening, after a particularly grueling training session, Bonner gathered the students around. "You've all made incredible progress. But remember, the greatest strength lies not in fighting alone, but in unity. Together, you can face any challenge." As they prepared for the next phase of their training, the students looked at one another with newfound respect and determination. They were no longer just individuals from different worlds. They were becoming a team, united in their goal to become the best warriors they could be. Little did they know that soon their greatest test awaited them, a threat that would challenge not just their skills, but the very essence of what it meant to be a warrior. As the weeks rolled on, the atmosphere at the Stellar Combat Academy buzzed with excitement and energy. The students, now more cohesive as a team, were eager to prove themselves against new challenges. They had trained diligently under Cale's watchful eye, absorbing every lesson he imparted. Each day brought new trials, and the students were transforming into a formidable unit. But beneath the surface, there was an undercurrent of tension. Something was brewing beyond the academy's walls. One evening, while the students practiced their tactics, Bonner gathered them around a holographic display in the main hall. The air was thick with anticipation. "Today, we will discuss something important," he began, his voice steady. "I received a report about a potential alien threat in the nearby sector. We must stay vigilant." The students listened intently, their expressions shifting from excitement to concern. They had trained hard, but the reality of combat weighed heavily on their minds. "Reports indicate that a fleet of advanced ships has been spotted moving towards our sector," Bonner continued, flicking the switch that illuminated the display. Images of sleek, menacing vessels filled the room. These ships belong to the Zarkans, a technologically advanced alien race known for their ruthlessness in combat. They have faced off against many species and emerged victorious. We must be prepared for anything. Whispers of uncertainty rippled through the group. The Zarkans were infamous across the galaxy for their dominance in battle. Stories of their overwhelming firepower and advanced strategies were well known among the Academy's students. Would they really stand a chance against such formidable foes? Bonner observed their reactions, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "I know you may feel intimidated," he said, trying to reassure them. "But remember, we have trained for this. You are no longer just students. You are warriors. We will face whatever comes our way together." With that, the students prepared for a simulation exercise that night. They would need to be ready, both mentally and physically, for the challenges ahead. As darkness enveloped the Academy, the training grounds lit up with bright holographic displays, creating a surreal and intense atmosphere. The simulation began with a loud alarm blaring through the Academy, signaling the approach of the alien ships. The students took their positions, adrenaline coursing through their veins. They had practiced countless scenarios, but now it felt real. They were finally facing the fear they had felt lurking in the background. Kale, overseeing the simulation, shouted commands, pushing the students to execute their plans flawlessly. "Use your surroundings. Communicate. Work as a team." His voice rang out like a rallying cry, igniting the fire within them. As they engaged in combat against the simulated Zarkan ships, the students fought valiantly, coordinating their attacks and covering each other. Bonner watched from a distance, proud of the way they worked together. But just as they were gaining momentum, the simulation took an unexpected turn. Suddenly, a loud explosion rocked the training grounds. The holograms flickered and distorted as the students momentarily lost their footing. Confusion set in as they scrambled to regain control. "What just happened?" one student shouted, glancing around in alarm. Before they could fully grasp the situation, the lights flickered, and the main screen displayed a message. "Real threat detected. Real Zarkan fleet approaching." The room fell silent, a cold realization washing over everyone. This was no longer a simulation. They were facing a real alien threat. "Everyone, to your battle stations," Bonner commanded, his voice firm and unwavering. "We must act fast." The students quickly gathered their gear and formed a defensive line. The holographic training ground transformed into a command center, displaying real-time information about the approaching enemy fleet. As the Zarkan ships drew closer, their metallic hulls glinting in the distant starlight, the atmosphere shifted from one of training to that of imminent battle. The students' hearts raced, but they were determined to face the challenge head-on. "Remember your training," Bonner shouted over the chaos, instilling courage in his team. "Stay focused, trust each other, and fight together." Kale stepped up beside Bonner, ready to join the fray. "Let's show them what we've got. We are warriors, and we will not back down." As the first Zarkan ships entered firing range, the students unleashed their counterattacks. The air crackled with energy as their weapons fired, illuminating the darkness of space. The Zarkan ships retaliated, their advanced weaponry lighting up the battlefield with bursts of brilliant colors. The students fought bravely, coordinating their tactics and supporting one another amidst the chaos. Every blast, every maneuver was a testament to their training and determination. They had come so far together, and now they were fighting not just for themselves but for each other. But the Zarkans were relentless. As the battle raged on, the students felt the weight of the odds against them. They were outmatched, but they would not give up. They were fighting for their home, their academy, and their newfound bond as a team. Bonner and Kale moved through the chaos, inspiring the students to keep pushing forward. With each skirmish, they learned and adapted, becoming more fluid in their movements and decisions. They could feel the adrenaline fueling them, igniting a fierce resolve to protect what they had worked so hard to build. As the battle continued, it became clear that they had the heart and spirit of warriors. But could their determination and teamwork be enough to turn the tide against such a formidable enemy? The fight for their future had only just begun. The atmosphere was thick with tension as the battle raged on. The Stellar Combat Academy had become a battlefield, with the students fighting fiercely against the invading Zarkan fleet. Explosions lit up the dark expanse of space, and the sounds of combat echoed in the students' ears. The adrenaline coursing through their veins kept them alert, even as they faced overwhelming odds. Bonner and Kale stood at the forefront, coordinating the defense. The holographic display showed the positions of the Zarkan ships as they maneuvered with unnerving precision. "They're adapting to our tactics," Kale shouted, his eyes scanning the chaotic battlefield. "We need to change our strategy." Bonner nodded, sensing the urgency of the situation. "Everyone, listen up," he yelled, his voice cutting through the noise. "We must split into smaller teams to outmaneuver them. Focus on one ship at a time and use the element of surprise." The students exchanged determined glances, nodding in agreement. They had trained for this moment, and now it was time to put their skills to the test. Each team quickly formed a plan, their minds racing with possibilities. As they executed their new strategy, the students moved with newfound confidence. Team Alpha flanked the nearest Zarkan ship, using the debris from a destroyed vessel as cover. They launched a surprise attack, hitting the alien ship's engines and causing it to drift uncontrollably. "Good job, Team Alpha," Bonner cheered, his heart swelling with pride. But as soon as he celebrated, he noticed another Zarkan ship heading straight for them, weapons primed for attack. "Look out," he yelled. The warning came just in time. The students dove for cover as energy blasts shot past them, illuminating the darkness with fierce blue light. Kale shouted commands, directing everyone to regroup and focus on the immediate threat. Meanwhile, Team Beta was struggling against a more advanced Zarkan ship. Its defensive systems were formidable, and every attack they launched seemed to bounce off without effect. "We need to find a weakness," one of the students yelled, frustration creeping into her voice. Bonner and Kale quickly joined them, assessing the situation. "Look at the way it maneuvers," Kale pointed out. "It has blind spots when it makes sharp turns. We can exploit that." With renewed determination, the team adjusted their tactics. They waited for the Zarkan ship to turn sharply, then struck with precision. The alien ship shuddered under their fire, and for the first time, the students could see the tide beginning to turn. But just as victory seemed within reach, a new wave of Zarkan ships entered the fray, their hulls glimmering ominously. "There are too many of them," one student cried, panic creeping into her voice. "Stay focused," Bonner barked, rallying the students. "We can't give up now. Remember what we fight for." As the battle intensified, Bonner couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. He turned and spotted a figure cloaked in shadows near the command center. The mysterious figure seemed to be observing the chaos, their gaze locked on Bonner and his team. He felt a chill run down his spine, but pushed the thought aside, determined to keep his focus on the fight. "Kale, watch our left flank," Bonner shouted, his instincts telling him that danger lurked. "Got it," Kale replied, scanning the area. The students continued to push forward, their spirits lifted by each small victory. They were learning, adapting, and growing stronger with every passing moment. The bonds they had formed in the academy were now being tested, and they were fighting not just for themselves but for each other. As the Zarkans retaliated with renewed vigor, Bonner shouted out instructions, encouraging everyone to hold their ground. The situation was dire, but they were warriors now. They had trained for this moment, and they would not back down. Suddenly, a loud explosion rocked the area. A Zarkan ship had unleashed a barrage of fire, striking a nearby building. The structure crumbled, sending debris raining down on the students. "Take cover," Bonner shouted, scrambling to shield his team. As the dust settled, he looked around to check on everyone. "Is everyone okay?" he asked, his heart pounding in his chest. One student, shaken but unharmed, nodded. I'm fine, just a bit rattled. Bonner let out a sigh of relief, but his heart sank as he noticed a familiar face missing from the group. "Where's Kira?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. The other students glanced around, panic rising in their eyes. "She was right next to me," one shouted. "Kira," Bonner called, his voice echoing in the chaos. "Kira, respond." A distant cry reached their ears, and Bonner's heart raced. "She's in trouble. We have to find her." Without hesitation, he motioned for a small team to follow him. Kale, too, was determined to help. They navigated through the debris, dodging falling rocks and avoiding enemy fire. The chaos of battle surrounded them, but Bonner's focus remained sharp. He couldn't lose another comrade. Finally, they found Kira trapped beneath a pile of rubble, her leg pinned beneath a heavy beam. "Kira," Bonner exclaimed, rushing to her side. "Hang on. We'll get you out." With Cal's help, Bonner began to lift the beam. Gritting his teeth against the weight, Kira winced in pain, but her eyes were filled with determination. "I can't hold on much longer," she gasped. "Just a little more," Cal urged, straining alongside Bonner. With one final push, they lifted the beam, freeing Kira. She gasped, tears of relief streaming down her face. "Thank you. I thought I was done for." "We're not leaving anyone behind," Bonner said firmly, pulling her into a protective embrace. "Now let's get back to the fight." As they rejoined their team, Bonner felt a surge of determination. They had faced the danger together, and he knew they would overcome this battle as well. The Zarkan fleet was formidable, but their bond as a team was stronger. They were ready to face whatever came next. The sounds of battle echoed all around Bonner and his team. The once bright and lively Stellar Combat Academy was now a war zone, smoke billowing into the sky and debris littering the ground. Zarkan ships circled overhead like vultures, looking for any sign of weakness among the defenders. Despite the chaos, the students had not lost hope. They had fought bravely, but the fight was far from over. Bonner looked around at his team. Kira had rejoined them, her spirit unbroken despite her earlier ordeal. "We need to regroup and come up with a plan," he said, his voice steady. "We can't let them overwhelm us." Cale stepped forward, a determined glint in his eyes. "We need to target their command ship. If we can take it down, we might disrupt their coordination. They'll be easier to manage if they're not working together." Bonner nodded. It was a risky move, but it could turn the tide of the battle. "Okay, let's split into two teams. One will create a distraction while the other attacks the command ship. We have to act quickly before they reinforce their defenses." With the plan in place, Bonner and Cale gathered their teams. The air was thick with anticipation as everyone prepared for the next phase of their battle. They donned their gear, checking their weapons and ensuring their communication devices were functional. "Remember, we fight together. We win together," Bonner reminded them, trying to instill confidence. "Stick to the plan and watch each other's backs." As they moved into position, Bonner felt a rush of adrenaline. This was the moment they had trained for. They were warriors now, facing an enemy that had underestimated them. The Zarkan fleet loomed ahead, and Bonner's heart raced with determination. The distraction team moved in first, drawing the Zarkan forces away from the command ship. They fired their weapons, creating a flurry of chaos. Bright blasts of energy lit up the night sky, and the Zarkan ships turned to engage them. "Now's our chance," Cale shouted, leading the attack on the command ship. Bonner followed closely behind, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. As they approached the command ship, Bonner's eyes widened at the sheer size of it. The Zarkan technology was advanced, with massive energy shields and laser cannons rotating ominously. "We need to find a weak spot," he called out to Cale. They maneuvered their ship closer, dodging incoming fire. Bonner scanned the ship's surface, looking for any sign of vulnerability. "There," he pointed, spotting a section where the shields flickered. "If we hit that spot, we might penetrate the defenses." Cale nodded, his eyes focused. "Let's do it." Bonner steered their ship toward the command ship, feeling the intensity of the moment. As they got closer, alarms blared, and the Zarkan ship fired its weapons. Energy blasts whizzed past them, barely missing their hull. "Hold on," Bonner shouted, pulling the controls hard to the right to avoid a barrage of energy. The ship rocked violently, and Bonner felt the sweat on his brow. Just a little closer. With a surge of determination, Bonner piloted their ship into the optimal position. "Now fire," he yelled. Kale pressed the firing button, and their ship unleashed a torrent of energy blasts. The shots hit the Zarkan command ship's weak spot, causing it to tremble and spark. Bonner felt a rush of adrenaline as he saw the shields flicker and fade. "We did it," he shouted, but their victory was short-lived. The Zarkan fleet quickly reacted, turning their fire towards Bonner and Kale's ship. "Brace for impact," Kale yelled, gripping the controls tightly. Bonner's heart raced as energy blasts slammed into their ship, shaking it violently. Warning lights flashed, and alarms blared. "We're taking damage," Kale shouted, frantically trying to stabilize their ship. The first wave of Zarkan soldiers charged forward, their advanced weapons ready to fire. Bonner took a deep breath and steadied his weapon. "Hold the line. Don't let them break through." As the Zarkan soldiers closed in, Bonner and his team unleashed a barrage of fire. Energy blasts lit up the area, creating a dazzling display of light and sound. The Zarkan forces, caught off guard by the intensity of their firepower, stumbled but quickly regrouped. "Keep firing," Bonner yelled, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He felt alive in the heat of battle, each shot echoing the cries of his fallen comrades. Kira moved with precision, her training shining through as she took down Zarkan soldiers with swift accuracy. Kale fought beside her, shouting encouragement to the others. "Stay focused. We can do this." The battle raged on, each side clashing in a fierce contest of strength and will. Bonner felt the weight of the moment. The fate of the Academy, of their future, depended on their resilience. But just as they began to gain ground, a larger Zarkan ship descended, hovering ominously above the plaza. "They're calling for reinforcements," Kale shouted, his voice laced with urgency. "We need to take that ship down." Bonner nodded, determination hardening within him. "Let's do it. We'll show them that humanity will not be easily defeated." With a newfound resolve, Bonner led a charge toward the ship. They moved as one, their weapons trained on the looming Zarkan vessel. The energy shields flickered, and Bonner knew they had to hit it hard and fast. "Focus fire on the energy core," Bonner commanded. "If we can destroy it, we might just turn the tide." The team worked in unison, aiming their weapons at the ship's vulnerable core. Energy blasts fired in rapid succession, illuminating the night sky with bright flashes. The Zarkan ship shuddered, and Bonner felt a surge of hope. "Keep it up," he urged. "We're almost there." But just as they closed in, the ship retaliated, unleashing a torrent of fire on Bonner and his team. The ground shook as explosions rocked the plaza, sending debris flying. Bonner ducked, narrowly avoiding a blast that could have ended everything. "Get back," Kira shouted, pulling Bonner out of the line of fire. "We need to regroup." Bonner looked around at his team, many of them injured but still standing strong. He could see the determination in their eyes, the unwavering spirit that had brought them this far. "We're not giving up," he declared. "We fight for each other, for our home." With renewed vigor, Bonner rallied his team once more. They charged toward the ship, determination fueling their every step. They fought with everything they had, refusing to back down in the face of overwhelming odds. Finally, with one last surge of energy, their blast struck the energy core. The Zarkan ship exploded in a blinding flash, sending shockwaves through the plaza. Bonner shielded his eyes, heart racing as he witnessed the explosion. Cheers erupted from the remaining students. They had done it. The tide had turned. But Bonner knew the battle wasn't over. As the dust settled, the Zarkan forces began to retreat, their once confident advance faltering. Bonner stood tall, his heart swelling with pride for his team. They had fought bravely against a seemingly insurmountable foe, and now they had a chance to reclaim their home. "This isn't just a victory for us," Bonner said, his voice steady. "It's a message to anyone who dares to underestimate humanity. We will rise, no matter the odds." As the last remnants of the Zarkan forces retreated, Bonner looked at his team, a mix of exhaustion and triumph washing over them. They had faced incredible challenges and emerged stronger. Together, they would rebuild their academy and forge a new future. The journey had just begun, but Bonner knew one thing for certain: humanity would never back down. They would always fight for what they believed in, and they would stand together, united against any threat that dared to challenge them.